Here's what I know is true. Most weight loss plans are one size fits all. So frustrating. They don't take into account each person's individual needs, which could mean dietary restrictions, medical issues, or other personal needs. That's why you're going to love Noom. It's built for your psychology and your biology, meeting you where you are. Noom's personalized programs feel more sustainable than any other, more restrictive weight loss programs. And also, it doesn't shame you when you choose to treat yourself, and that's important. I like this company because it's got a psychology and biology-based approach and a super easy app to use with lots of great features, including daily lessons, coaching, and flexibility. I think it's your time to start. Stay focused on what's important to you with Noom's psychology and biology-based approach. Sign up for your trial today at Noom.com. Based on 3.5-year study of actively engaged Noom users with minimum BMI of 25. Individual results may vary. Visit Noom.com for more information.
Don't miss Good American Family.
We have a little girl here for adoption.
She has dwarfism.
Starring Ellen Pompeo and Mark Duplass.
Something is off.
She's just a little girl. You think she's faking?
She has adult teeth. There are signs of puberty.
Inspired by the shocking stories that tore a family apart.
I don't know what's going on.
How old are you?
You should get a lawyer.
You have no idea how those people hurt this girl.
The Hulu original series, Good American Family, premieres March 19th, streaming on Hulu.
Welcome back for another episode of Reality Life with Kate Casey. And if you love all things true crime, this is a great episode for you. This episode is about Sin City Gigolo, a murder in Las Vegas on Paramount Plus. Gigolos ran for 6 seasons from 2011 to 2016. It followed the lives of 5 male escorts in Las Vegas. Cameras followed the escorts on their appointments with women, which included their sexual activity. The series aired on Showtime. And each of the cast members had their own archetypes. The cast included Nick, Brace, Vin, Steven, Jimmy, Bradley, and Ash Armand. He was known as the healer. A call came through to a Las Vegas 911 dispatcher on July 16th, 2020 at 10 o'clock a.m. It's going to sound insane because it is insane, Ash says. He was calling from his Las Vegas condo, and near him lay the dead body of a woman. We took mushrooms together, said our prayers together, put on Avatar together. I don't know if you've ever done mushrooms before, he says to the dispatcher, but I was no longer in this reality. I was in different realities, and then I saw the person next to me. That person next to him was Herline Dulai. She was a 29-year-old Temple University graduate who modeled occasionally and was known for being shy and reserved. She had moved to Las Vegas in 2017 to pursue a post-baccalaureate degree after having obtained her bachelor's in biological sciences. Raised by academics who migrated from India, Dulai was the youngest of 3 and her parents' favorite, and they had given her the nickname Happy Herline because she was always smiling. In June of 2020, she sent a DM to Ash. He had begun working as a gigolo when he lived in Miami and then in Las Vegas. Women had paid him $800 to spend 2 hours with him, $3,000 for an overnight date, and $25,000 for a week. Now, it's unclear if the relationship between them was transactional. At 6'1" and 205 pounds, Ash was a domineering figure, and there was speculation that he had been taking steroids. Had this contributed to Herline's death? Gruesome details emerged, leading to many questions. Scrutiny concerning the Las Vegas Police Department's handling of the case, and what went on that led to the death of Dulai, who was working as a personal trainer at the time of her killing. Ash argued during testimony that he had blacked out. He had no memory of what unfolded after the two had taken psychedelic mushrooms. He pled guilty to voluntary manslaughter and mayhem and was sentenced to serve 8 to 20 years in a Nevada prison. Over 3 episodes, viewers are given an inside look at who Ash is through the lens of family, friends, exes, and former Gigolos cast members. Law enforcement who worked on the case also weigh in on their perspective of events. Sin City Gigolo, A Murder in Las Vegas, again, is on Paramount Plus. Here is my interview with the director and executive producer, Barbara Shearer. Barbara, we're back together.
We are. It's a nice place to be.
I always get excited when you text me stuff because I'm like, oh, what does she have up her sleeve now? And this one was a good one. I got to tell you, I watch a lot of true crime. This one was a surpriser.
You know what though, Kate? I'm very happy to hear that, number one, because it's so noisy out there, right? And in terms of true crime. So the challenge with this one all last year, and I just wrapped it in December, was how do we break through the noise, right? Like, and this presented this with the Gigolos show, and we'll get into it. It did present an opportunity to do something really different, and that is exactly what attracted me to this project.
Well, how familiar were you with the show? I mean, I kind of heard about it, but I'd never watched an episode before. So how familiar were you?
Not at all. I had no idea. I mean, I do all my work in the US, but I'm in Toronto. I had never heard of it, never seen it. I did not know anything about the crime or this gigolo who killed one of his clients. I came to this with absolutely no background on any of it.
And it's an interesting kind of television show that, I mean, it's clearly a show of its time. When you go back and you look at it, but I mean, a little risque. Like when I started to see the clips from it as shown in the series, I mean, talk about pushing some boundaries. Talk to me a little bit about the cast members and their personality profiles.
Yeah, I mean, you're so right. I don't know if you wouldn't maybe get away with it now. It reminded me, though. I mean, it's Showtime in the mid-aughts, right? Like it makes sense, right? It's Showtime, and it was exactly that kind of thing. It was also HBO in the late '90s, early 2000s. They, Taxi Confessions and all that kind of stuff. I mean, there was a lot of stuff that everyone got away with at late night TV. So in that respect, yeah, but it was done in such a nice, like, I would say nice, maybe that's the wrong word, but it was done in such a fun, off the cuff, taking the piss kind of way. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Really did. Okay. So when I came to let me back up. When I came to this, when I was brought this project, right, Sin City Gigolo, when I was brought the true crime series to try and figure out how whether it's 2 episodes, 3 episodes, who's going to be in it, et cetera, I was like, all right, the only way I'm going to break through the noise on this is if we get access to the Showtime series. Like that was really a big one, right? And because I didn't think it was that different or that interesting, honestly, of a crime series otherwise, right? Because now if I can get access to the Showtime footage, now we can make a comment on sex work and reality TV and much more relevant aspects in society today, and that's really, I think, why this is a different series and why it's interesting and I hope relevant and will break through the noise and engaging for an audience to look at and question certain aspects. Now, watching, so I watched, I think I watched 45 episodes of the Showtime series to get myself.
Gosh. Yeah, get acquainted. Sure.
Get acquainted, know these characters, know how they were very much they're, different characters. Brace was the elder statesman and Ash was the healer, which I think he started to, buy into this persona that was created for him, right? Like it was a creation, it was scripted that way. All these sorts of, Nick was the bad boy. Vin was the smart one, the business guy. Like they all had their own little characters that were, and personas that were basically probably scripted for them on some level, and on some level they kind of fit into them perfectly. But so I watched 42 episodes. This is just an aside, but I watched like something like 45 episodes or whatever. And my interview with Brace, when I interviewed Brace in Vegas for this show, I said, hey, I feel like I know you because I've watched 45 episodes of Gigolos. And the first thing he says to me is, well, you got 8 more to go.
Oh my God.
It's just like there were more and I think Nick said something along the same lines where it's just like they didn't find it remarkable that I sat and watched 45 episodes. They found it remarkable that I didn't finish the series.
The whole thing.
Yeah.
Well, they talk about in the series about how famous they were, and not having watched any of the episodes, I was trying to wrap my brain around that. Like, would they actually have been celebrities in like Las Vegas? Like they're walking down the street and people are like, oh my God, that's the Gigolo.
Absolutely, they were.
Okay.
Absolutely. That was not hyped. That was in terms of our series or whatever. I mean, I'm just pick on them. I'm not, you know what I mean? I didn't have I didn't know the series. I wasn't there to promote the series. I was there to tell the story of this crime, right?
Yeah.
And horrible crime, in fact, this overkill of a crime. So I didn't particularly know what was going to come out of their mouths, because they are very unpredictable characters in a great way, from a storytelling point of view. But no, I mean that they were big. They were big in Vegas, and I think they had some sort of they had a huge following. It was sort of on the the eve of social media just blowing up, and so yeah. I didn't know anything about it, but they were a big deal. They were a big deal and sort of a cult following kind of thing.
But then I also thought this is a show that pushes boundaries. And I think Brace talks a little bit too about it. Well, there is a point at which you get too old and you're not as attractive and you kind of age out. Did you notice in covering the story and interviewing some of them that there was a point of an identity crisis and a pivot? Because Nick is like, super spiritual now and has a man bun and wears like yoga clothing, which threw me. Are they all kind of like that in some way in their own little ways?
I think there is my feeling is when you are engaged in any type of field where it's sex work or OnlyFans or anything like that, there might be a best before date. You know what I mean? I would imagine. And so in that, and I did feel that even separate from the Gigolos. It's interesting that you bring that up. No one's asked me that yet, but we do talk about with Tushi Cash. She was one of Ash's former girlfriends who was, does porn and OnlyFans and, Instagram and whatever else you can do out there, and she's incredibly successful at it. I mean, incredibly successful. She's and owns a bunch of houses and all that kind of stuff. Right. And her boyfriend or fiance now is Johnny. And I thought Johnny was actually really great. And they do talk about aging out. She does talk about aging out, and Brace does too. But that was the only person. So yeah, they do have to figure out and pivot, into what their next gig is to survive.
Let's face it, weight loss can feel overwhelming. That's why Hers is changing the game. By providing access to GLP-1 medications plus expert care, they make your goals more achievable. Hers is transforming women's healthcare by providing access to affordable weight loss treatment plans delivered straight to your door if prescribed. Hers offers a holistic weight loss program with personalized solutions, including compounded GLP-1 weekly injections, featuring the same active ingredient as Ozempic and Wegovy or oral medication kits. So after submitting an online intake form, a licensed medical provider will determine what plan is best for you. And if prescribed, your program includes medication, ongoing care, and online support, and all at one cost. So if you've been struggling with your weight loss journey, it's time for you to find the best option that works for you through Hers. Start your initial free online visit today at forhers.com/KateCasey. That's forhers.com/KateCasey for your personalized weight loss treatment options. forhers.com/KateCasey. Hers weight loss is not available everywhere. Compounded products are not FDA approved or verified for safety, effectiveness, or quality. Prescription required. Restrictions apply. Wegovy and Ozempic are not compounded. Actual price depends on product and plan purchased. I love the look of luxury, but knowing that I got it at a great price. And I feel like you're like me too. And that's why I know you're going to love Quince. Quince is my go-to for luxury essentials at affordable prices. I get DMs all the time. Where did you get that sweater? I'm telling you, I got it at Quince. You know why? They offer high quality items at prices within reach. And the best part, all Quince items are priced 50 to 80% less than similar brands. So they do this by partnering directly with top factories. So Quince cuts the cost of the middleman and then passes the savings on to us. And the best part, it only works with factories that use safe, ethical, and responsible manufacturing practices. And who doesn't love that? In fact, the thing you need to get right now are the toasted almond silk pajamas. It's a beautiful gift for someone in your life or just for yourself. So give yourself the luxury you deserve with Quince. Go to quince.com/KKC for free shipping on your order and 365-day returns. That's QUINCE.com/KKC to get your free shipping and 365-day returns. Quince.com/KateCasey. The other thing I kept thinking too is what a fast, strange life that must be. Because you show footage of them even just at a party and just the way people are maneuvering around the party. It's so isolated when you compare it to the rest of the world. I mean, they're in very like skimpy bathing suits and they're sort of like, I don't know, fondling one another in a way like you wonder, did they just meet? Is that just how people communicate and how they maneuver in social situations?
They're all in the same world where boundaries are really blurred, and how they make money is very much in sort of a one lane.
Yeah.
So I think they all date each other. It's very incestuous. They even say, I don't know if in the show, I'm trying to think of, but Tushi even says, it's very incestuous. They date each other. They know each other, like all that kind of stuff. It's a small bubble. And I think especially in Vegas, right? I mean, I'm sure these little pockets are in LA and, in New York and all sorts. But Vegas, if they're in that world of being sort of influencers, whether it's sex influencers or whatever you want to call them, porn stars, sex influencers, OnlyFans, et cetera, gigoloing, escorting, all that kind of stuff. It's a pretty small world, was my understanding when I went into it. And they do all know each other and they often do date each other. So, I mean, we have two girls on camera, two of his former girlfriends used to party together and lived in the same house together that dated Ash, right? So that's just one example, but that was not unusual, was my understanding.
Well, then you have this investigation, a murder, and it's involving people who work in the escort business. So how does that complicate an investigation? Because I feel like over time, I have covered true crime cases where there is someone who works in a business having to do with the sex business. And I find that there's an attitude that law enforcement tends to have where things may not be fully investigated or they're sort of dismissive of a victim based on what they do.
Yes. And what I will say is I do agree with you, but I do think this, and I might be playing devil's advocate here because I do see both sides of this story, having gone down, really, really researched it and gone down the rabbit hole on my research for this show. I see both sides. It's not unusual in Vegas to come across crimes that also, like sex work in Vegas is like being a waitress in Vegas. It's very, very, very common. It's not like any other town in that respect. So I don't think the cops are shocked or at all. Okay. What I would say is in this particular crime, and let me just preface this, what I'm about to say with this. I don't think the cops are completely innocent in this. I think corners were cut. I think there was a rush to judgment in some aspects of the story. But I do think they walked into this particular crime thinking it was a domestic. Mm-hmm. And that's the other aspect of Las Vegas. And Joyce, the journalist in this, says it on camera. We made sure, that we got that side of the story. It is so common in Vegas, unfortunately, to have domestic occurrences that end up in death. Wow. So I think they walked into this thinking, oh no, okay. And that might have been a rush though, right there. Oh, another typical domestic. Mm-hmm. More sex work or reality TV star, which does play a part down the road. You know what I mean? The first thing they walked in was, this is just another typical domestic between a white husband and wife, or a girlfriend and a boyfriend, which is what they really thought for several hours, and reported it such before they got the right victim. But I think that was more of an issue and a problem, unfortunately, than the fact that he was that they knew that he was a sex worker. Yeah. I think that comes later. And I also think that would have been, had he been able to afford a good defense lawyer, the argument of whether there was some bias towards him in the crime because of him being a sex worker or a reality TV star would have come up.
Talk to me a little bit about the victim, because we don't have access to her personal story, obviously, but also because her family was not really involved. So how do you tell the story of the victim? Because I know that's always paramount for you.
100%. I've been doing this a long time too, and specifically a lot of true crime. And one of the first calls the team, I insist on making, or have the team make, is to the victim's family or a friend, because that voice needs to be heard. It's so important to remind the audience that no matter what we're doing, no matter what the noise is and how we execute the show and do different avenues, you have to bring it down to the fact that someone died here, and really, really horribly, and remind the audience of that. And we didn't have the family. And I get it. I really do. I think the family to this day is absolutely devastated. I think we see that at the end of the show. Well, I know we see that at the end of the show. That was very important footage to have when they make their statements about the victim. And you just see the devastation that losing a family member has on a family, which means the story all comes crashing back to that, which was important. So we couldn't get that. They didn't want to speak. I get it. And good for them. Honestly, as a human being in me says good for them. As the producer had in me, I'm like, what am I going to do here? Right. Yeah. So with that, though, thank goodness we got a friend, a Vegas friend, so they could speak to her life in Vegas. Aaron Smith, who is on screen, can talk. Was friends with Herlene and also worked with Herlene, and was her trainer at one point before they worked together. So he saw her for a good amount of time. Really got to know her on a personal level, could share that with the audience, and illustrate this wonderful human being that she was. And we also have the footage of her speaking out, which gave her a voice in the show, which I think was really invaluable.
Also, you have the complication of the graphic nature of the crime scene videos and pictures. What is that like to put together the story, and you have to give people a window into what occurred in the hours before this victim died? Is that troubling as a filmmaker that you get access to? First of all, is it hard to get access to it? And when you do have access to it, I'm assuming that would really haunt you.
It does. It did actually haunt one of the. It did. It does. It does. You never get used to that. I do think it wasn't in this case, because the case had been adjudicated. It was not difficult to get access to the actual footage. From a practical perspective, it was not difficult to get access to the crime scene photos and video and all that kind of stuff. That's just a straight FOIA. And because the case was, it's not being, it was adjudicated. So that's fine. From an emotional standpoint, it's really tough. It's really tough. It never gets easy. And it's about deciding how much we sort of make, how much we show, and also what we obscure, but also because it's actually worse than one sees on the finished product. But I think I want to you also, as a filmmaker, want to make sure the audience understands just how much damage was done by a man who at some points throughout the show is coming across as sympathetic.
Mm-hmm.
Right? So you need to remind the audience of that. And again, these are all done incredibly purposely. So these moments of crime scenes and when they come off of something, when we insert them. And again, it's also like when we showed the family at the very end, like we need to make sure the audience understands the devastation of this crime.
This show is sponsored by Liquid IV. Now, I've said that my goal this year is to stay more hydrated. You can gift yourself the everyday indulgence of extraordinary hydration from Liquid IV, powered by Live Hydroscience. They've got true-to-fruit flavors that keep you hydrated. And you can find all your favorite hydration multiplier flavors on their website. I have to say my favorite flavor is the sugar-free raspberry lemonade because it's a bright, zero sugar flavor combining notes of ripe, freshly picked raspberries and citrusy, zesty lemon. And it really gets me going on my day. I think you're going to love it too. I like feeling like I'm hydrated all day long. And if you're somebody who's outdoors or plays sports, this is an absolute must-have. You can break the mold and own your own ritual. Just 1 stick and 16 ounces of water hydrates better than water alone. It's 3 times the electrolytes of the leading sports drink. And also 8 essential vitamins and nutrients, always non-GMO, vegan, gluten-free, dairy-free, and soy-free. Treat yourself to extraordinary hydration from Liquid IV. Get 20% off your first order of Liquid IV when you go to liquidiv.com and use code KateCasey at checkout. That's 20% off your first order with code KateCasey at liquidiv.com. Did you know that Fast Growing Trees is the biggest online nursery in the U.S. with thousands of different plants and over 2 million happy customers? They have all the plants your yard needs, like fruit trees, privacy trees, flowering trees, shrubs, and so much more. Whatever plants you're interested in, Fast Growing Trees has you covered. You can find the perfect fit for your climate and space. Fast Growing Trees makes it easy to get your dream yard. You order online and get your plants delivered directly to your door in just a few days, without ever leaving home. Their Alive and Thrive guarantee ensures your plants arrive happy and healthy. And plus, you get support from trained plant experts on call to help you plan your own landscape, choose the right plants, and learn how to care for them. For example, I knew that I was in the growing zone 10 and I picked out the most perfect lemon tree. It's so cute. It makes me so happy every time I walk outside. This spring, they have the best deals for your yard, up to half off on select plants and other deals. And listeners to this show get 15% off their first purchase when using the code KateCasey at checkout. That's an additional 15% off at fastgrowingtrees.com using the code KateCasey at checkout. fastgrowingtrees.com, code KateCasey. Now's the perfect time to plant. Use Kate Casey to save today. Offer is valid for a limited time. Terms and conditions may apply. The fact that this has to do with 2 people that were taking drugs, that makes it a little bit murky. Previous relationships that he had. And then the part that really stuck with me is that the people that were part of that cast of Gigolos, especially Brace, are saying, you don't know really who this person is. And I think that that's hard for sometimes people who watch reality shows for long periods of time because we really believe we've got cracked the code on somebody. But when you add in someone's aging out, they may or may not be taking steroids. They're a regular mushroom user. They have a whole backstory, and there are parts that people withhold when they know they're on camera. It makes it really kind of interesting to put all those parts together and make a decision. So that's why I really liked it, because at the end, you're still sort of like, I don't know. If this had gone to trial, we would have been able to see it more clearly, but it's still in the hands of the viewer. Like, I don't know. We don't know all. And I feel that way about a lot of true crime cases, actually, is that we may know that somebody died. We just don't know the sequence of events. That, right, for me, sometimes trips me up.
Yes, absolutely. And I don't just make these shows, I watch them. You know what I mean? Like
Mhm.
I'm an avid fan and watcher of the good stuff out there, of the well done, the well produced shows. So I watch that too, but I think it's also a sign of a good director to leave the decision in the hands of the audience. I mean, I know what I set out to do, whether it's a true crime show or whether it's, you know, my JFK show or whatever, right? Maxwell was a really good example of that when I did the Ghislaine Maxwell series. It's just like, I'm not trying to excuse these people at all. I'm trying to explain them.
Mm-hmm.
And so you really do want to show not just the bad side, but the other side where other people don't believe this person is capable or this person is a good person and couldn't have done it or whatever, you know, whatever the other side has to show. I think it's incumbent upon a good director and showrunner to show both sides of every story and let the audience decide.
Mm-hmm.
That's how I want it to every project I look at. Now, with this particular series, when it has to do with this particular Gigolo Ash, I think what I saw was happening was this is and I think it's not just with reality TV series show characters, because you brought it up and I want to comment on that. I do think we know them because we watch them and they're arguing on camera and all that kind of stuff, which I think the audience is getting pretty savvy. We also are starting to pick up on inauthenticity as well.
Mm-hmm.
But for the most part, a lot of these reality series, well, I would say almost all of them are probably loosely scripted or loosely, you know. So these people, what they do is, in order to like sort of keep their job, frankly, they lean into this character that's been developed for them and push the boundaries of it to make sure they've got a job next season.
Mm-hmm.
You know,
Mm-hmm.
if they're boring, they don't. So I saw this with the Gigolos specifically. They had to, like, you know, a lot of this is created, or they're put in situations where there's going to be an argument or, you know, some conflict or something interesting for the
Mm-hmm.
audience to watch, right? So, but they start to believe their own hype too,
Yeah.
and they start to really believe in this created identity,
Mm-hmm.
produced identity. Like Ash wasn't a healer, folks.
No, he was not. No.
Like legitimately, he did study massage and Reiki, apparently. First of all, I don't even know what the hell a healer is. Like, what is
It's
a
just
healer?
such like a made up term.
It's so ambiguous. It's ridiculous.
Mm-hmm.
But this is how he sold himself. This is how he marketed himself. This is a character that was created around him for 6 seasons, but then he took it to the next level and went out and years later is still marketing himself as an escort / healer. Well, this is the last guy a woman who needed healing should have been dating.
Right.
You know? So that's where I think, getting back to your point about reality TV stars or sex workers or whatever, but I think I really wanted to bring in this aspect of being a reality star, because it's just like they start to believe their own hype and their own completely.
Well, it's almost like there are two situations. You've someone like Nick who has an identity crisis and is so almost embarrassed about who they were that they go a completely different way. And then you have others that just totally lean into it, like Omarosas of the world. Or they're like, oh, this is how the world sees me, and this is how I'm being compensated, and this is how I'm getting attention and validation. I will be who that person is. But the question is, who is he really? We don't know. Because really, the way he was living his life post-show was based on an identity that was created about an ensemble of men who were escorts.
Right. And I think that's because he might not have had the opportunities that other people have. He might not be the brightest guy, right? He doesn't have the same opportunities as people. He doesn't know how to maybe turn that into, maybe he did not save any of his money. You know what I mean? Like Brace was the smart one, where he's like, okay, I know what I need to do here. I know what people want to see. I will do it, and I'll take my paycheck and I will go and invest that or buy a bunch of real estate, or you know what I mean? Like some of them were smart enough to do other things, right? But when other people aren't as fortunate in terms of, maybe just fortunate, maybe intellectually, I don't want to be so brash, but I think they are desperate, and it's about survival, and they do what they have to do, and they say what they have to say. Bye. And I do think some of them did that, and some of them were smart enough to see that there's an expiration date. I better keep this money and turn it into something else, or I better move into other areas.
What is the one thing that's going to haunt you about this case?
I think what's haunting is the death of this woman at the hands of someone who was out of control,
quietly and enraged.
Yeah, and just it was complete overkill. Beyond, I mean, it was ridiculous. It was just, it's just a horrific death that didn't have to end that way. Yeah. You know, I think that sits with you. How can it not? How can it not sit with you and remain with you after it's all said and done? And the devastation, I think at the end of the show in episode 3, the devastation that it's had on her family is just, I think that absolutely sits with me. There's no question when we got the tapes of the at the grand jury and they were allowed to make their statements on behalf of the victim. And I think that was just really a killer. You know, the editor and I had a really hard time watching that and making that aspect of the show. It was really tough.
Congratulations to you and your team. It sounds like you just finished this not too long ago. So even better.
Yeah, it was December that we delivered it, and it's great. It's Paramount Plus has been behind it. They're really excited to get it out, and couldn't have been a better partner. I'll tell you that.
And then where can people watch it?
Be streaming starting Tuesday.
And then tell everybody about the other projects that you worked on, where they can watch them, because those were great as well.
Oh, thank you. That's so sweet of you. This is my 3rd series with Paramount Plus, so I love working there. So they've been great with me. My other one is JFK: What the Doctors Saw, and that's streaming on Paramount Plus as well. That's done really, really well. And what else have I done? I did Epstein's Shadow, Ghislaine Maxwell, which you can still find on Peacock. I've done Loving Elvis, where I interviewed 19 of his ex friends. That was interesting. Another one, and that's on Peacock. So now I'm in development with a couple of other networks, and we'll see what's next.
That's excellent. Well, tell everybody where they can find you.
I'm on Instagram, Barbara J. Shearer on Instagram, and I think that's it. I'm barely on there, but if you want to reach out, please reach out to me there.
I do feel like sometimes people come to me with an idea, and I do share it with you. So it does happen, people.
Absolutely, it does. That's how I find ideas too. And I watch you. I'm on top of you. Like you cover great stuff. So absolutely, they can reach out to me on Instagram or LinkedIn or Kate Casey's been good to me too.
Thank you.
Thank you. It's great to see you.
You too.
The amazing Kate Casey.
I want to thank my great guest, Barbara Shearer, and remind you to click subscribe, leave a 5-star review. Please join the Facebook group Reality Life with Kate Casey. If you want a list of what to watch each week in unscripted TV, go to katecasey.substack.com. And then also check out bonus episodes by going to Patreon, patreon.com/Kate Casey. Please follow me on social media too. I'm on Instagram at KatecaseyCA, TikTok, it's Kate Casey, and Twitter Threads and Blue Sky at Kate Casey. Check back tomorrow for an all-new episode.
Hey, I'm Cassie DePeckle, the host of Wondery's podcast, Against the Odds. In our next season, I'm telling the story of 4 American rock climbers who were kidnapped by rebel militants in the remote mountains of Kyrgyzstan. The group was taken at gunpoint and forced to hike through brutal terrain under the cover of night to avoid detection by the Kyrgyz army. With little to no food or water provided by their captors, the young climbing team had to struggle through severe dehydration and hunger. Finally, they realized they would have to fight for their lives to escape. It's a thrilling story of survival in the face of violence and terror, and doing whatever it takes to make it home alive. Follow Against the Odds on the Wondery app or wherever you get your podcasts. Binge the entire season ad-free right now only on Wondery Plus. Start your free trial in the Wondery app, Apple Podcasts, or Spotify today.